A single swim in warm, fresh water can change your life forever. Not because you drank the water, but because you inhaled it. There is an organism lurking, one that survives city plumbing and can kill 97% of its victims in days, all by entering through your nose. How does something invisible end up in your tap water, and what really happens after exposure? This is where the microscopic hunt begins. Naegleria fowleri survives by transforming itself, cycling through 3 distinct forms depending on its environment. In harsh conditions like drought, cold, or when chlorine levels spike, this amoeba retreats into a cyst. The cyst is double-walled and nearly impossible to kill with routine water treatment. It can survive drying, heat, and even the chlorine found in most municipal water supplies. This dormant state allows the organism to wait out unfavorable conditions, sometimes for months, until water temperatures rise or nutrients return. When the environment shifts, if water becomes warmer or nutrients drop, the cyst cracks open and releases a flagellate form. Now equipped with whip-like tails, the amoeba swims freely, searching for better conditions. This flagellate stage is temporary, triggered mostly by stress or sudden changes in water chemistry. As soon as the amoeba finds a suitable habitat again, like warm, nutrient-rich water, it quickly sheds its tails and transforms into its most active state. Each stage looks and acts differently, but all serve a purpose. The cyst protects, and the next stage, soon to be revealed, will show how this microscopic drifter becomes a predator. Recognizing these forms is the first step to understanding how Naegleria fowleri survives everything from droughts to city water treatment, hiding in plain sight until conditions are just right. Under the microscope, Naegleria fowleri's most dangerous form comes to life. The trophozoite, barely the width of a human hair, glides through warm water with a sense of purpose. It is not a mindless drifter. This single-celled organism is an active hunter, using its amoeba stome, sometimes called a food cup, to latch onto and consume bacteria. The amoebastome works like a microscopic mouth, extending from the cell's body to grab, break down, and ingest its prey piece by piece. In a drop of water teeming with microbial life, the trophozoite is both predator and survivor. Most freshwater amoeba feed passively, but Naegleria fowleri is different. It is active, moving toward chemical signals released by bacteria. Once it finds a target, the amoebastome opens like a trap, pulling in fragments of the bacterial cell wall and digesting them. This feeding strategy is efficient and relentless, allowing the amoeba to multiply quickly when temperatures climb above 30 degrees Celsius. At 42 degrees Celsius, common in hot springs and poorly maintained water heaters, replication accelerates. One trophozoite can become thousands in just a few days if conditions are right. Researchers have captured this behavior in laboratory dishes, watching as the amoeba pursues and devours its prey under time-lapse cameras. The same feeding mechanism that helps it thrive in muddy riverbeds or warm pipes will later prove devastating if the amoeba ends up in the human body. Here, the story of a microscopic hunter in the wild begins to blur with the threat it poses to people, especially where warm water and human activity intersect. A single drop of warm, fresh water is all it takes. When Naegleria fowleri enters the nose, it does not linger in the sinuses. The trophozoite form attaches itself to the thin lining of the nasal cavity, locking on with specialized proteins. Within hours, it begins its silent journey, moving along the olfactory nerve fibers that stretch from the nose straight into the brain. These nerves act as unguarded highways, bypassing most of the body's defenses. The amoeba slips past the cribriform plate, a porous bone at the base of the skull, using chemical signals and enzymes to dissolve its way through the tissue. Once inside the brain, the real damage begins. The amoeba extends its food cup, or amoebastome, and begins to feed, not by swallowing whole cells, but by tearing off pieces. This process, known as trogocytosis, leaves a trail of destroyed neurons and glial cells in its wake. In laboratory studies, researchers have watched as the amoeba nibbles away at living brain tissue fragment by fragment. The invasion is fast. In less than 24 hours, Naegleria fowleri can reach the olfactory bulbs, setting off a chain reaction of inflammation and cell death. By the time symptoms appear, the amoeba is already deep within the central nervous system, making reversal nearly impossible. In homes across the southern United States, Naegleria fowleri has found unlikely shelter. The threat does not just lurk in lakes or rivers, it can hide in the very places people rely on for daily routines: bathtubs, showerheads, and even the pipes running beneath the floor. Warm water heaters set below 120 degrees Fahrenheit create the perfect breeding ground. Inside these systems, the amoeba tucks itself into biofilms, slimy layers of bacteria clinging to the inside of pipes. These biofilms act like armor, trapping the amoeba and shielding it from chlorine. Even when city water is treated, the disinfectant often cannot break through the slimy barrier. A water engineer explains that biofilms are stubborn. Standard chlorine levels just skim the surface. Inside, organisms like Naegleria can survive for weeks. This is not just theory. In 2011, 2 people in Louisiana died after using neti pots filled with unboiled tap water. Investigators traced the amoeba back to household plumbing. The city's water supply met all federal safety standards, but tests found Naegleria living in stagnant corners of the system, places where water sat warm and undisturbed. Municipal records show that in some homes, the amoeba was thriving inside showerheads and heater tanks. The lesson was clear. Even treated water can become hazardous when it sits long enough to let biofilms form. Ordinary habits like rinsing sinuses or taking a hot shower can open the door to a hidden danger. The first sign often slips by unnoticed. Within days of exposure, a sudden strange smell can creep in: burnt rubber, rotting leaves, or a chemical tang in the nose. Doctors call this phantosmia. It is a phantom scent with no real source. For people who have recently been swimming or rinsing their sinuses with tap water, this odd sensory glitch can be the earliest clue that Naegleria fowleri has started its invasion. The timing is critical. This symptom can appear as early as 1 to 2 days after contaminated water enters the nose. In rare documented cases, it is the only warning before the infection accelerates. While headaches, fever, and nausea develop soon after, the window for effective treatment narrows with every hour. Recognizing a sudden unexplained smell right after freshwater exposure is not just strange. It could be the difference between life and death. Most people dismiss it, but for a handful, this fleeting scent is the first and only alarm. Inside the emergency room, time becomes the enemy. A patient with sudden fever, headache, and confusion, just days after swimming or using a neti pot, triggers a scramble among clinicians. Routine tests for meningitis come back negative or inconclusive. Only a spinal tap reveals the truth. Under the microscope, motile trophozoites swim across the wet mount of cerebrospinal fluid, their shape unmistakable to a trained eye. This single observation, tiny moving amoeba, where none should exist, confirms a diagnosis that few doctors ever want to make. By now, swelling in the brain has already begun. Intracranial pressure rises hour by hour, squeezing healthy tissue and pushing the brain toward herniation. Even with aggressive treatment, including intravenous amphotericin B, miltefosine rushed in by special order, and induced hypothermia, most patients do not survive. The window for intervention is measured in hours, not days. The clinical team works against a clock that rarely stops for anyone. In almost every case, the diagnosis comes just as the last chance slips away. As global temperatures rise, cases of Naegleria fowleri are appearing further north each year. The line between safe and risky water shifts with every summer heat wave. Microscopic threats don't wait for headlines. They evolve with our world. The smallest dangers are often the unseen threats we never see coming.